thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement here across the country?
I feel like their message needs to be heard. I feel like they deserve a voice, and I feel like the message that they are putting out is one that is the right message. I think that obviously Black Lives Matter to us, and I was very vocal before when we watched what happened in Minneapolis. That is nothing that we train. When we arrest somebody, if we have to fight with them and they're on their stomach, we immediately get them up off their stomach. And that's something that we have trained for all the years that we've done use of force. And I know that people get caught up in the heat of the moment, but what we try to do when we see something like this, and something that we don't train ourselves, we take that situation and we give it to our trainers, and we actually watch the videos, and we sit down and we talk about, why is this, what are you seeing here? Why isn't this correct? What kind of mistakes did they make? And make sure our officers are very aware that we don't sit on people's necks, we don't get on people's backs. When we have somebody laying on the ground, they're cuffed, we get them up immediately. The best weapon you have is to be able to talk to someone and bring them down. I think that it's worked wonders for us because we don't have complaints.
I'm gathering that different police departments across the country are kind of angry and upset at what's going on. Some are taking your position, more progressive. I mean, is that the general sense that many different police departments are upset at the crowds, the riots, or what's the general sense here? I know you can't speak for all the police departments, but can you kind of describe that sense here? Like, how are you guys feeling as a police department?
I haven't talked to any chiefs in the area that have had any issue with the protests and people having a voice. I haven't heard anything like that. It might be different in other areas where there's violence involved too. I don't know, but
you guys recently did the protests in Ontario. What's your thoughts on that? When the young people and all of the gatherers, they were blocking the traffic. What's your thoughts on that? You guys stepped in and you protected them.
It's a double-edged sword for us.
Yeah.
Because it's violating the law, but you have to have some discretion with that as well. We have to have discretion with that as well. And we were there to protect the protesters. We didn't want anybody to be hurt. And so I feel like there's a moment where you have to use discretion in a good way, and I felt like that was the moment that we had to have that discretion, and we used it. And we take heat from it. I feel like there's some times where discretion is the better part of valor, and I think in this moment it was, and we did what we thought was right. We actually use the simulator in our interviews, because my feeling is this: you can polish up your interview skills. You can come in and you can say everything that you think we're going to ask you. You can get online and you can look at what's the best way to do an interview. What you can't do is come in, and when we throw you in the simulator, you're going to react the way you react. You're going to react the way that you intrinsically would react. And I think that gives us an insight into a person we would never have normally had. So once we started doing our interviews and we had the simulator, we take the people that we're interviewing and we put them up in the simulator, and they have no idea they're going up there. We just tell them dress casually, professionally casually, whatever it is, and we put them up there. And that gives you a huge amount of insight into how somebody reacts, because it's just them, it's the screen, and it's show us how you can talk to somebody.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in law enforcement, you hire people, you send them through the psychological checks, and you send them through the backgrounds, and you send them through polygraphs, and you do all that stuff. But you never really know how somebody's going to react or whatever until you got them on the street. And I think the other thing is you just have to react to the complaints that are filed. If there's an officer complaint that comes in, you've got to investigate it, and you've got to do the right thing. And I think that you set your officers up for failure if you don't hold them accountable, and you set your officers up for failure if you don't thoroughly investigate the stuff that comes in, because there's insight there too. So you might be able to make it out of 16 weeks of field training. You might be able to make it through a year of probation, but eventually if the complaint comes in, that's got to be vetted, and it's got to be vetted with sincerity, and looking at it and saying, if our officer messed up, if it's something we can fix, we're going to fix, and if it's not fixable, then we have to do the right thing too.